That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet.
When you could not prove anyone right or wrong, all the expertise was contained in the people involved in the conversation.
We hope you enjoy our conversations, and as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, "That don't sound right," send us a comment. You're one of us. So you climbed a 100-foot rope.
Pretty much. Welcome back to another episode of That Don't Sound Right, a podcast about talking. We're your co-hosts. I'm Peter Billman.
I'm Cecil Davis.
And we're just trying to have a conversation here without Googling or fact-checking things. Those things can so easily kill a conversation.
Our conversations are having an effect.
They're spreading, and they're making people notice things, and they're making people try new things. I'm so happy. A coworker came by and said he noticed a slight color in his new LED lights that he'd installed, and it drove him crazy. He had to go change them.
This is from last week's episode.
Yeah, where we're an overlit, I think is what you said. We were over ice. We're over.
You said that about me.
I'm saying that's right. We're overwatered, over ice, and we're an over flashlit society.
Flashlight technology is advanced as far as it needs to advance, Peter.
You know, talking about over iced, I just got back from Italy.
Yes. Did you have ice in Italy?
Not a whole lot of ice.
They're not an over-iced society.
Not a whole lot of ice over there. Not a whole lot of water from the tap.
Can you drink the water in Italy?
Sure, yeah, it's no problem. But
where were you in Italy?
We were in two places. We're in a town called Sorrento, which is south of...
Is that the cheese place?
No, it's the... Oh, yeah, it's the cheese place. Yeah, forgot. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, it's right south of Naples and Pompeii, and then we're up in Florence, which is kind of in the central part of the country. But yeah,
welcome back.
It's good. It's good to be back.
So your friend noticed that the color of the light was slightly different.
He had two outdoor lights. One of them burnt out. He replaced it, put a new one in. That night, turned them on and saw, oh, wait, they're different colors. And I said, yes, LEDs are ruining our lives.
So, and also, in addition to that, my brother spent the night last night in the New Mexico desert. And
on purpose?
On purpose.
Okay.
And had kind of shed his clothes, get in his sleeping bag, and then
I highly recommend that.
Right. As it has been recommended on our show, but didn't have the sleeping bag rated down to the 29 degrees. So he had to add layers back on. It was still cold, but survived the night. But was maybe had a few comments for you.
Some choice words for my name. He used my name in vain, I have a feeling.
So people are listening.
Oh, for Pete's sake. That's where that comes from.
Yeah. So people are listening, but maybe we should say, maybe you shouldn't listen.
I just don't try this at home. Right. I think we always say that.
Yeah, he hasn't hit a gator yet, but as you have recommended, spanking a gator.
Well, I don't know if I recommend it, but I don't know.
But you did it.
I don't see the issue with it.
Tonight's episode is like hot off the
press. You came in here blazing.
Yeah. So I heard a comment tonight by someone who's near and dear to the show.
I think he's on staff.
And they will instantly realize who I'm talking about. A 3 or 4 time state champion wrestler.
So that's a legit wrestler right there.
Legit wrestler. I knew wrestlers in high school. I went to Cary High, and Cary High was a wrestling powerhouse.
Really?
For like 20 years.
Really?
I forget the coach's name, but they were the team to beat in wrestling for a long, long time.
Does that say something about the innate talent of Cary students and their ability to wrestle, or is that
I think it was the
coach was able to teach the technique where they became unstoppable?
I think it was a consistent coach over that period of time, and I think the schools that fed in had good coaches, and so they just had kind of a whole farm program feeding into the Cary High program.
Oh, okay.
Excellent coach there, and did really well for. I think they had like a 20-year reign of excellence.
That's wild. Did you?
I did not wrestle.
I tried.
Did you?
I tried wrestling for one.
High school?
Yeah, I tried wrestling in high school. This has been my junior year. I tried it, And man, it whooped me.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I was a scrawny kid. I had no leverage. And I remember one of the first things that was during, I don't know, it was during tryouts or it was probably just conditioning. In the gym, they had a rope tied to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And you had to climb
as most hospitals had back.
And you had to climb that rope.
Yeah.
Up to the top and ring the bell.
Yep.
And I was not fond of heights. And I don't even know if I had the technique to do it.
Because the gym is what? I'm not even looking because of my measurement of height.
At least 100 feet.
So you climbed a 100-foot rope.
Pretty much. And then...
What is it really? About 30 feet up? 40 feet up?
That'd be my guess. Probably 30.
Yeah.
More like... Well, it's probably, 3 stories.
So the same amount I climbed on a ladder.
3 stories sounds about right.
Right. Okay, so 30-foot rope.
Yeah.
And then, well, at least have that half an inch foam pad at the bottom in case you fell.
Yeah, nothing like the dull thud of human flesh against the padding.
Yeah. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I didn't last, but that was but then that was when my condition in my wrist was flaring up. And I told you about that.
Right.
And that actually made it even worse because when you're wrestling, what's one of the things you grab? Someone's wrist. And so they would grab my wrist and it would just shoot pain right on my arm.
Yeah.
Over I go.
I did not participate.
Yeah, I didn't any
sports.
I did not last long in wrestling, to say the least.
But a lot of people wrestle. There were wrestlers there, and then I knew some wrestlers in college. And my understanding is you're trying to be the heaviest person in the lower weight class.
In the lowest weight class.
You want to be in the lowest weight class possible, the heaviest person in that weight class. Right. So you're always messing with your weight.
Right.
You're always because
you weigh in.
And
that determines what weight class you wrestle in for that match, right?
Yeah. So you're always trying to lose weight to get into the weight class one down, I guess.
Which is counterintuitive because to be good at wrestling, I would think you need to be very strong.
Yeah.
And to be very strong, you need muscles. And muscles have a certain amount of weight associated with them. Right. And also, wrestling takes in a pretty good amount of endurance.
Yeah.
And I never really got the whole be dehydrated and malnutrition right before the match. I mean, it works for them, but that never really sounded right to me.
So nor I either. Right. I guess you weigh in and then you go and eat a lot so you'll be ready for the match.
Yeah, we probably need some follow-up questions with our staff about this.
But the technique that was proposed was that you could stand on your head and then jump on the scale and you would be a half a pound lighter.
No, that don't sound right.
I said it didn't sound right.
Wait. So how long are you on your head for? Not that it matters.
I don't know.
But I mean, you're doing a handstand?
I guess.
You're upside down.
He'll have to call in and
so you're hanging upside down.
What's you reminded me of an old joke.
Yeah.
And you'll appreciate this because it's an old trucker's joke. So there's a guy driving down the road in a truck. And about every half a mile, he gets out and runs around the truck and beats on the side of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's doing this for a while. And finally, this cop is watching him do it. And so the cop finally pulls him over and goes, "What are you doing?" He said, I've only got a half-ton truck, but I've got a ton of birds in there, so I got to keep half of them flying all the time.
Well, that would work.
You said that when I said that.
That would work.
I don't think that's the way that works.
It does. It's exactly how it works.
If you had an 18-wheeler full of birds,
right?
Let's say so we'll use the same things. You got a ton of birds.
I got a ton of birds.
It's a half a ton truck.
Sure.
And you keep half of them flying.
Yeah.
Your
payload is not transmitting load to the truck. They're transmitting it to the surrounding air.
I don't think that's the way that works.
It's exactly how it works.
That's not how it works. If you were on an airplane, so when you're flying back from Europe, if you're on an airplane and you jump, you don't fly to the back of the plane because the plane's still moving, right?
Right, but the
plane doesn't become your body weight lighter if you jump in the air.
It sure does.
No,
it sure does.
I don't think that's
for a split second. It does.
No.
Yeah. Actually, what actually happens first is the plane gets heavier.
How's that?
Because you generate force to propel yourself upward.
But that doesn't increase weight. That increases downward force.
Yeah, but on the way, what the wings experience is weight, right? The wings experience weight.
Weight or force?
In this case, it's force. It's weight times gravity. All right.
Okay.
And so you've applied a force to propel yourself up. That increases the force on the plane. So those wings actually have to carry that much more. But then in that split second, when you're off of it, it releases. That weight's no longer there. Same thing in the truck. Except the weight is being, or the force of the birds is being distributed to the air around it, which is dispersed. It doesn't go onto the truck. So the truck is lighter if the birds are flying.
Half of the birds are flying.
If half the birds are flying, half the payload.
You only have a 50.
You only have to have half the payload. That's right. That's right.
So,
which makes you wonder why they jam the chickens in these trucks with such little compartments.
Keep half of them flying all the time.
You could have, yeah.
I'm not sure that would work. I think in theory, yes, you've got half of it in.
Which part wouldn't work?
I've really got to think this through. We need a physicist to talk to us about this. But so back to the original question. So if you're trying to make your wrestling weight and you stand on your head and then jump on the scale,
I can't imagine the physics on how that works.
I can't. But
I don't understand I don't see how
this was a technique. We need wrestlers to call in and tell us if this was something they tried to do.
This don't sound right. That you can just defy gravity, if you will. Because I mean, where does that half pound go? It's got to go somewhere. When you're standing on your head, it's
still in your body.
It's still in your body. It's just distributed. All that blood. But I bet you there's a half pound of blood on your head.
Yeah.
Now.
You're right.
And it's when you stand on that scale, the blood is just oozing down, but it's all in your body.
Yeah.
The weight of your legs is still supporting that amount of blood.
I will say that have you ever stood on a scale and lifted one foot and watched the numbers change? Because technically the same amount of weight is on the scale, right?
Yeah, but
now you've changed the distribution.
There's kind of an instantaneous shift of it.
Okay. Now, I still think the blood thing doesn't sound right. But in the same way, have you changed the distribution with the blood going to your head and not being in your feet? Same as if you were standing on one foot.
Yeah. I would think you'd have to stand. I'm just not.
We could easily answer this.
How so?
Well, I'm not going to stand on my head. But I mean, I wonder if you could do it if you just changed your body position on a scale, if it would change your weight.
I don't think it would change the weight as much as you'd see the weight fluctuate.
Okay. I've got a question for you. This goes back to your bird thing.
You're still bugged about the birds.
What if you held your arms out to the side?
Yeah.
Because now that weight is not really centered over the scale.
Yeah, well, but your center of gravity is still...
Your center of gravity is still over the scale. But the weight in your arms not over the scale.
They're not over, but the force of your body holding up that arm is now that load gets transmitted right down to your leg.
What if I'm moving my arms up as I'm weighing? Because the force is now up and not down.
Well, I mean, if you had a scale that was going quick, all right.
I guess you could drop your weight.
It's just really quickly, though.
Yeah, but that's all you got to do is a second before you weigh in. I think the blood thing doesn't sound right, but I wonder.
Well, I'm wondering. I mean, yeah.
I wonder if it's tricking the scale.
If it's tricking the scale, the thing is, the blood's moving to me, the blood's what's moving in the wrong direction.
Is the blood's moving? Yeah, I agree. But how long would it take for blood to go from your head down to your feet? We don't know.
No. And I doubt if there's a bunch of wrestlers on their heads in line waiting on the scale. Maybe they are. I've never been at a weigh-in. I never got that far.
That's the way I could see it happening.
That
you're tricking the scale.
You have a line of wrestlers on their heads in line right before the scale.
No, I'm saying I could believe it if you're tricking the scale. The weight is the same.
All right, let's get a scale. Hold on.
I'm not standing it on my head, man. I wouldn't be able to do it.
We don't have to do that stand on your head thing.
You do the arm thing.
But let's do the arm thing. Let's flap your arms, okay? So I got a scale here.
Peter's got the standard bathroom scale, digital scale.
All right, we'll stand on it.
With the light conserving diode.
It's so you can see it's changing weight. And so we'll just
Do the 1 foot first.
Well, let's do, so let's turn it around. Okay, so I'm standing on with 1 foot, with 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to stabilize. So let's see what my weight is first. Okay, so the number reads 180.4.
Okay.
All right. So I got to come off of it.
Are you going to let it reset?
Got to let it reset.
All right. This is scientific today, man.
All right, so it's look, it's finding my weight, and I'm moving my feet around. Look,
right.
See that?
Yeah.
I'm moving my feet around, and I'm always making sure 2 feet are always touching. And you can see it takes some time for it to stabilize, but then 180.4, now I'm on 1 foot.
Okay. What was it before?
180.4. So 2 feet, it's the same. 1 foot, it's the same. But as you can see, as I was moving my foot around, the weight was fluctuating. Now the question is,
so now if you got fluid in your body that's in motion, does it do the same thing?
Let's see. One way we can simulate that is what you say, is I can move my arms down, right? So look at the weight down here.
Okay. It's fluctuating.
Look at it fluctuate.
Yep. I think we're on to something here, man.
So look what it does is when my arms go up, the momentum of my arms is lifting my body off the scale.
Yeah.
I mean, ever so lightly. But the numbers are showing that. And then when they come down,
you're heavier.
It's heavier. But then when I stop.
So you've got to convince the person weighing you in to weigh you in quickly.
But the problem,
probably not let the scale settle.
But the problem with the theory is that when my arms went down, it increased the weight. The momentum of the arms coming, so the momentum, the blood coming out of your head through your torso should theoretically make you heavier.
As it's coming down. So you'd have to be on your head and jump on the scale before anything really started to move much. Because as it started to move down, it's going to make you heavier.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to ever make you lighter.
I think for an instant it may. I agree. I don't think it sounds right, but
by flapping our arms like we did, we showed that changing the mass, moving the mass up and down made a difference. But
so you're moving your mass up, standing on your head.
Yeah.
And now when you stand on it again, it's moving down. I would wonder if they would allow that. I mean, I guess they did.
State champ.
Yeah, I mean, if the scale's not stabilized, it's like if you get on, it's a half a pound lighter, but it's slowly getting heavier as your blood's settling back down. I wonder if they would take that first reading and say, that's the reading.
But I would think the first reading is still your original weight, because that's where everything's static.
No, I'm talking about if you're standing on your head.
On the scale?
No. Before you got on the scale.
Yeah,
you're half pound lighter. But now you're slowly getting heavier because the blood's coming down.
Right. What don't sound right to me is the starting point is a half pound lighter. Yeah. To me, the starting point is your original weight, and you get a half pound heavier because the blood is moving.
Well, if you had your hands up when you stood on the scale and dropped them, would you get heavier?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. As the blood's coming down, you're getting heavier.
Right.
But for that one moment.
Well, if I stand on the scale with my hands up, I'm the same weight.
After it stabilizes.
Okay, let's do that.
Right, because you're up. So you drop them.
I mean, let's simulate. I got my hands up, so I've got 10 pounds of mass over my head.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Am I going to weigh 180.4 still?
Once it stabilizes, but when you're in motion, you're going to be lighter.
Well, let's see.
When you go from the top to the bottom.
Let's see.
Okay.
Here we go.
Peter is now standing on the scale.
All right, so we're almost. It didn't even move. Didn't even move my arms.
All right, we're going to need the state champion to come in here and further elaborate on this.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I bet it's interesting because I bet in high school, when we were in high school, the scales were not very accurate.
Okay.
They probably had the old slide scales and
probably the wheel.
Right. But when you get to the Olympics, though, they probably have the super sensitive.
And they've been calibrated and inspected and guaranteed for accuracy.
I would think that'd probably be easier to throw off a high school scale than it would be like an NCAA college scale.
So that's the thing. If he's state champion, I imagine they've got good ones for the state championship.
Yeah, I would think they would. But you're probably not pulling that kind of stuff during a state championship either.
Maybe not. Maybe you got your.
This is probably
you might got your weight dialed in.
Yeah, this is probably for the matches during the year. People are trying to do all kinds of stuff. Georgia is probably taking his phone and throwing it completely out the window by this point.
Because you didn't describe it well, or because why would he do that?
Because we're disputing that wrestlers can do this.
Well, he made it work.
Somebody made it.
Or maybe he knows somebody. Maybe he knows a guy.
Yeah.
He's asking for a friend.
Well, that's very interesting. This has been a fun one, especially since we did science experiments.
And this is really getting close to my favorite subject to talk about, which we haven't done yet.
What? Wait,
gravity.
We have not talked about gravity yet,
and
we have talked a lot about talking.
We talk around gravity.
And your contention is that gravity is a construct.
Well, we're all trying to figure it out. But my argument is, we figure out gravity, we figure out a lot of problems. And again,
we'll save it.
We got to sit.
You might need a guy that understands more about gravity than I do to discuss this with. We might have to bring in an expert. So if you're a gravity expert, let us know.
Well, there's a theoretical physicist that we know at Wake who would probably love to talk to us about gravity. And he also made the point, we don't know why gravity works. We know the nature of it, but we don't know why it works. Mm-hmm. Just like we don't know why negative electrons repel each other. We know they do it.
Right.
They exert a force on each other, but we don't know the why. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, there's lots of it's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Yes,
that don't sound right, that we don't know something as simple as why electrons either attract or repel each other. Why is that? Oh, man.
You're going to have to get...
I can't wait to figure this out.
I have tried to understand those theories before, and I've read some books, but it gets pretty tough.
Oh, yeah, I don't understand it either, but I do like talking about it. But anyway, just because... thank you for letting us get close.
You're welcome.
To gravity.
Thank you, Giorgio, for the topic.
That was great.
All right. It don't sound right, but you've come to the end of this episode of That Don't Sound Right.
Hey, before we close, we want to thank everyone for listening. If this is your first time and enjoyed the conversation and understand what we're trying to do, you notice that we didn't Google this. We just kind of talked about it.
We even got a bathroom
scale. Hit that subscribe button on the platform you listen with. Also, if you're a longtime listener, please give us a rating and leave us a review so others can easily find us and enjoy the conversation.
And if you listen to something on the show and think that you may need to use it in practical, really think about it first. Make sure you have it in the correct context for what we meant it.
And maybe do some testing at home.
maybe Google it.
Maybe Google it. Or ask a friend.
Ask a friend. All right. That Don't Sound Right is a production of TDSR Podcast in conjunction with Camel City Studios. I'm your co-host and sound engineer, Cecil. Peter is your other host and web designer. Camille is your barista. Emily does your graphic design. Ella does your Instagram. Giorgio tests our merchandise. Brent is our international brand ambassador. And as always, listener number one is Scott. So till next week, keep talking.
And stay curious.